Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to OKKO, Season 2, Episodes 28 and on. So, last time we left off with what is perhaps just full-on biased reasons, my favorite episode of the series. Just bringing in the ghoul school girls and everything is like just, that's how you're going to win me over. I'm very much one of those people who loves modern cartoons and everything, who's really into the way animation has changed and grown and evolved. But I will not argue that sometimes nostalgia is just, it's just overwhelming. Sometimes you can get completely lost in it, and it's amazing. It's wonderful. It's something, in a way, to be celebrated. There's nothing wrong with getting lost in nostalgia as long as you understand that the more modern stuff is good too. And in some cases, better. As long as you can acknowledge that, get lost in nostalgia all you want. There's plenty of moments where I do. And this was definitely one of those moments. It was also just so unexpected. Like, when the episode was beginning and everything, like, the word school were mentioned briefly by Enid, I believe. And my thoughts is like, oh yeah, it reminds me of that. That's what comes to mind when I hear that. And I'm talking about it, and then, like, not even a minute later, you actually see the characters pop up, and it's like, it caught me so off guard in the best way. And to find out that some of them were voiced by the original VAs, that only 2 of them couldn't return because they had passed away and everything, or one of them had passed away and the other one has this issue being able to read scripts nowadays, like a legitimate medical issue, I mean. But to find out that, like, most of them did return is wild to me. And it's just, and even the new VAs who took over for Tanis and Winnie, they did a good job. They obviously weren't exactly the same, and Tanis was aged up. I don't think I don't think I mentioned this last time, but I did notice it. Tanis was aged up. In the original Ghoul School movie for Scooby-Doo, she was, like, basically practically a baby compared to the others. Like, she's introduced as the youngest of the Ghoul School. And you see her, like, it's made very clear that she is extremely young compared to the others. In this, she seems like she's almost the same age. Now, mind you, all the characters might have technically been aged up, but it's like, it just, I don't know, it's just a little weird thing that they did. But it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. They still got the personalities of these characters down really well. And I just enjoyed seeing them. Like, just again, I was blinded by that nostalgia in a way. But to be fair, the episode was also just enjoyable. Like, even outside of that, it was fun, it was interesting. Yeah, it kind of retreaded something that they had done before with just Enid's fears and worries and everything. But they even acknowledged that in the episode. It was intentional to kind of go back to that. It was basically a Halloween special where they didn't want to like bring in too many like real like big um stuff for the future. They just wanted to have something like let's just take an episode to like really just chill. Like, a lot of the episodes are very episodic and don't really do much for the overarching story. But this one, it really felt like they just wanted to chill and have fun. And they wanted to focus on the fact that they were bringing in these characters. They made references, like one of them referenced, what'd she say, like that boy and his Great Dane, something like that, referencing Shaggy and Scooby, who were the two who were helping out at the ghoul school and everything. So it's like, I really enjoyed that. I really did. It was good for me. So yeah, it's purely on a bias level that episode, that I say that episode is probably my favorite of the series. It's purely on a bias level, purely on a nostalgia level. Even saying that now, like some time later, after I've had a chance to chill out and get away from the recency bias, I still believe that. Just from, I guess you could say, just the way it makes me feel watching it. The pure, just joy it brings to me. It definitely causes it for me to be a step above. So, yeah. But we're moving on, and we're going with episodes 28 and on today. As we've been doing lately, we're just going to kind of take it as we go. Last time I kind of ended off after that episode, after the episode with the Ghoul School girls, because it's just like, how do you follow that up? Someone's going on out there. How do you follow that up, and how am I going to watch more after that? It's like my mind is going to be solely on that for a bit. So I felt like it was a smart idea to stop it there, but who knows how many we'll watch in this episode or in this video. It should be, as usual, at least 3, probably no more than 5, so somewhere within that range. But you never know. You never know. We kind of always end it when we end it. I have no idea what she's barking at now. So, but I am definitely excited to get to more. We're about just under 10 episodes away from the end of the season. So we'll see how it goes. We might be able to kick this out in like 3 more videos, 2 more after this maybe. Something like that. Either way, we're just going to get this started. So when the screen fades black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. This was a wacky set of episodes. There was some of these I was really into, like a couple of these I was really enjoying, and then there were like 1 or 2 that I wasn't as enthralled by. especially one of them specifically kind of irritated me a little bit, if I'm being honest. Um, so let's talk about them. I got the list up this time, on time, right away. So GarQuest. GarQuest was probably one of my favorites of these. KO is just spending time with Mr. Gar. Carol's off doing some stuff, so she leaves KO in his hands. And we find out that Gar is called away for a mission. It's kind of a similar setup to the Carol Quest episode, which I very much. It's obvious it's intentional. Um, so he's kind of guilted by KO. I don't think KO did it on purpose or anything, but KO kind of guilted him into taking him with them. So they go on the quest, and this melon dude has a bunch of Glorbies, and he's just causing havoc. Gar puts things right. Everything's good. But the big appeal of the episode, well, Gar puts things right with help from KO, I should say. The big appeal of the episode, though, is the backstory stuff. We find out that after the laser blast incident, Gar was... all the blame was put on Gar. He was basically made the scapegoat of the situation, and because of it, he was dismissed from Point. We see how he was dismissed and kicked out. We see how even at the time Carol didn't even stand up for him. But we also saw that she was guilty about it. It was made very clear that she felt bad for him, and I feel like at the time she just didn't want to maybe like speak out against the Point in that regard. She didn't want to make too many waves. Like nowadays, I feel like Carol would probably do something in that situation. But yeah. Either way, I mean, especially since her and Gar are kind of together now. But either way, we see that because of this, Gar kind of went on this like just journey, walking around. His hair and facial hair grows out until eventually comes across this kid who's just trying to open a soda can, but the tab broke off, and it's like, oh, that sucks. So he's just trying to open the soda can and can't do it. And so Gar has a trick to opening it. He does so, and the kid's like, "Oh, you're my hero." And Gar's like, "Oh, it was just a small thing, but it made me feel important again." And so we see Gar continues to go out, help others, until he's eventually approached by the president of the universe, apparently. And the president tells him, I need someone like you to continue helping around and to help defend this magical glorb tree, basically. And he's like, here, I'll give you this land right above it, protected and everything. And we see that's how Gar created the plaza, which is really interesting to know. Like, that's actual good lore to this series. So we see that's how he creates the plaza and everything, and yeah, cool. But then we also see that, he's not quite wanting KO to know about all of this, but he also can't say no. So he's telling him anyways, and it appears he's the first person he's talked about, and the missions that he's been getting has been from the president this entire time, rather than like Point, like Carol has been getting her missions from. So it's going to be really interesting, and Point we know is definitely going to come back after the Point Prep saga. We know there's going to be more with them, and we know that their corruption is going to be addressed, especially in regards to Foxtail. So it's really interesting, just the more we get about Point and finding out just all this stuff. Like, this is a sign of corruption too. the fact that they just decided to use Gar as a scapegoat and put everything on him just to kind of save their own skin and their own image is just kind of fucked up, honestly. But moving on, after that was Super Black Friday, and this is one of the two that I really did not like. And it's not that the episode was bad, I don't like the message. Like, the message is trying to be all nice and good and, you know, all accepting and everything, but it's kind of trying to say, like, you should accept and, you should see this just unironically, excessively toxic thing as good because it's some people's tradition. Super Black Friday is kind of what you would expect from a title like that. It's about a superhero version of Black Friday after something called Shucksgiving, because corn is important in this world. It's basically just Black Friday. It's the same concept, the same idea, and the idea is that KO, Rad, and Enid are being told to work that night leading into the morning, you know, Black Friday and everything, because a lot of Black Friday deals do start the night before on Thanksgiving in real life. So they're being forced to work, but Gar does tell them they can leave. Gar tells them, we'll just cancel it and everything. So they're going to leave. They turn out the lights, but the lines are already there, and they basically can't escape. And that's when Principal Claus comes in and basically does this entire thing with them throughout basically the rest of the episode, telling them this is all these people's holiday tradition, and it's important to them, and basically the entire rest of the episode is that them learning that this is an important holiday tradition for these people. But the episode makes it clear why this is not a good message. In the episode itself, it directly tells us, it directly says why Black Friday is bad. Why that kind of capitalist, commercialist idea is bad. How it's extremely toxic and disgusting and dangerous in a lot of ways. Like, the episode even shows us, like, some of the dangers of it. Like, in real life, people have died on Black Friday. People have been hospitalized, they've died, all because these stupid people are just so invested in getting these deals on televisions or game systems or furniture or other stuff like that. They're just so invested in getting all these deals that they just put everyone's safety aside. They've literally trampled people. People have been literally trampled. People have had bones broken. They've, like, fights constantly start out. Every single year, this shit happens. It's hell. It is capitalist hell. Not hell for capitalists, but hell made by capitalism. You know what I mean? It is an extremely materialistic and disgusting and toxic just concept. And that's why I've never really taken part in it. I've gone out on Black Friday, like, to go shopping once, and I was really young and I went with my father. That's the only reason I went. I wasn't actually buying anything. I was like a kid. I would never go shopping on Black Friday. Not just to avoid all the lines or to avoid all of the dangers of it, but I don't agree with it. I think Black Friday is an absolutely disgusting concept. And considering the dangers that it has presented, considering the just active capitalist bullshit that it's predicated on. I cannot support the idea of just passing it off as someone's tradition. Just trying to not make light of it. Well, yeah, kind of make light of it, but also to trivialize it and even excuse it as just like, oh, this is these people's yearly tradition that should be respected and all. It's like, no. Like, regular holiday traditions, sure, respect those, but not something like this. Not something, again, where literal human safety and even lives is in danger. That is not something you can just respect or just agree to, like, disagree because it's just someone else's traditions. It's not that kind of situation. If lives and safety are in danger, then it's beyond that level at that point. You can't just say, oh, it's someone's tradition, I may not understand it, but I've got to respect it. No, not in that kind of case. So I'm sorry, but I very much disagree with the message of this, that it was teaching. And it's like, the tradition at the end, though, with, like, the family, like, Gar and Carol and KO and Enid and Rad and all them eating together and all, that tradition's fine. That's a great tradition. Some people's tradition for, like, Christmas, like opening a Christmas present the night before, stuff like that, that's a good tradition. Thanksgiving tradition of going to a certain family member's house every year, that's a fine tradition. Stuff like that, that's good. Because it doesn't put anyone in danger, and it doesn't victimize anyone. That's a good way to just word it simply. It doesn't victimize anyone. Black Friday does. Just in its concept alone, it does. It's pure capitalistic bullshit. And so, I'm sorry, I can't get behind this episode. I didn't even find it that entertaining anyways. It just didn't really, it didn't really appeal to me in any way. Then we have Wacky Jacksies. This one was just a trip. This is not one I would say was one of my favorites, but it was just kind of in the middle for me. In fact, it's really interesting. We did 5 episodes in this video. 2 of them I wasn't a fan of. 2 of them I really did like, even kind of love. And then the last one I was just kind of mixed on because it was just so much. And this is that one. It was a lot. So KO is hanging out with Dendy. They're playing pretend with their POW cards, having some just general good time fun. When one of KO's classmates, Nanini, gets his attention. She's playing jacks. They're basically jacks with extra super powered additions to them. They use like this kind of like this bracelet launcher thing that launches the balls for the jacks and does other things. It can like make the ball into a multi-ball and use magnetism to attract the jacks to you and stuff like that. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I don't think it's supposed to. And then after that, everything becomes anime. This episode was full of so many fucking anime references. From JoJo to Yu-Gi-Oh to Beyblades. It's just like, it was so much that it almost kind of felt like too much. You know what I mean? Like, I like it when a show references other shows or games or movies or whatever. I can enjoy a good reference. But there has to be a limit. If your episode is pretty much nothing but references, then it feels like there's nothing else holding the episode up. The reason why I say this is still in the middle for me, though, instead of an episode I don't like, is because it was so fucking ridiculous. It was it was really fucking entertaining. I had a blast watching it, but it was also just, I don't feel like there was a lot of substance to it. It was just a shit ton of references. Everything was a reference. Everything was an anime reference. The visuals of the characters inside the Shadow Realm, or whatever it was called exactly. It was something like that. They were just trying not to specifically say Shadow Realm. The guy who created Wacky Jaxies is basically just Pegasus. And then he ends up being the older brother of the other guy we met, and it's like that's a trope. Um, and just every reference under the sun is thrown at you. And if you strip that away, really all you've got is a bunch of overzealous kids playing jacks. And there's nothing really else to the episode, and it feels kind of shallow because of it. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of mid for me. Because it feels very shallow if you strip away just all the references that kind of just make this episode. But they're so entertaining that it still is exciting and fun to watch. But it was such a trip, and it was throwing me so fucking off the entire time that I didn't know what to think. I actually had to definitely think about it after I finished the reaction for a minute there. Um, it was wild. It was a lot. I think that's just how to put it. 31, Sidekick Scouts. This was the other episode I was not a fan of. So KO is let down by chip damage. That's fair. So he decides he doesn't want to become a solo hero anymore. He's a little let down by that idea because Chip Damage was his hero. Chip Damage was his inspiration. So he decides to try the route of a sidekick instead. And while there, he ends up meeting Combo Breaker, who's basically just Astro Boy, except really fucking annoying. And basically the idea is KO continuously gets annoyed by Combo until he eventually snaps at him and tells him off for being a nuisance. The Bodega bots come in, and KO needs Combo's help to stop them. He apologizes, saying he was out of line and everything. They stop the bots, and Combo decides to end up being a sidekick for another hero in training, while KO is reinvigorated onto his path of becoming a solo hero. And there's also the idea thrown around that KO is like, oh, I was annoyed by you because you reminded me of a younger me. And it's like, okay, first of fucking off, you were never anything like this. Like, KO was a goofy little kid. Like, he's definitely matured a lot throughout the season, the couple seasons so far. But he was never like that. Never. And two, the entire concept of apologizing for, snapping at someone is so often just poorly handled in media. Because it's always the case, I often see it, whether it's in a show or a movie or whatever, where a lot of times the person who snaps had a right to snap. And they were completely in the right to get upset, to get annoyed, and to tell the person that they were annoyed with that they were annoyed with them. Because oftentimes the person who's annoying is so unbearably annoying, or is actually an active nuisance that they're causing problems, that it's genuinely an issue. That it's not something that you can just say oh, I'm being too harsh, I just have to learn to work with you better, I just have to give you a chance. It's like, no, they're being a legitimate problem. And that's the case here. Combo Breaker is not just annoying. He's an active nuisance. He's actively getting in the way of KO's everyday life. He's breaking product inventory in the store, which that's not a good thing. That is very bad, in fact. And he's actively fucking everything up. In fact, that's why I thought, like, oh, is this kid going to end up being a Boxmore bot? Because everything he was doing would have made sense in that regard. Because if he was revealed to be a Boxmore bot all along, it would have basically been like, oh, so all this mayhem, all this nuisance, all this terrible shit is because he's purposefully being annoying, whether even he knows it or not. That it's all a way to attack the plaza. The idea of having it like, no, he's actually just a good kid who's just misunderstood. It's like, that fucks up the entire thing. And it just makes him fucking annoying and a nuisance. It would have been more logical and would have been better if he had just been a Boxmore bot. It would have made sense then. It would have actually made this less annoying. KO was in the right to snap at him. I'm going to stand behind that. I don't care what anyone says. Sometimes you need someone to snap at you if you are being a problem. If you are getting in people's way, if you are actively, like causing damage to things around you, you need to get snapped at. I mean, KO didn't even go that far. If KO had gone like too far and just started like vitriolically, verbally attacking this kid, that would be one thing. But no, he snapped for good reason, and he only said what he needed to in that regard. And sometimes you need to hear that kind of stuff in order to grow as a person. I've needed to hear that kind of stuff. I've been snapped at. I've been told off for things in the past, and I've grown so much because of it. I would not be the person I am today in so many ways if not for that. I'm glad people snapped at me. And believe me, in the moment, no, I couldn't handle it. I don't deal with pressure very well. I break down very easily. But I'm glad in retrospective that it happened nonetheless, because it allowed me to better myself. KO was not in the wrong here, and the fact that the episode painted him as being in the wrong was wrong. So, yeah, I didn't like this one either. But then we get to Project Rayway, and we get back to an episode that was one of my favorites of this set, and possibly my favorite of these 5 episodes. Even a little more than GarQuest. I really loved GarQuest, but Project Rayway was just so good, in my opinion. It was just so entertaining. It was definitely more of a personal thing, because obviously it wasn't as important to any story or progression or lore as GarQuest was. But I just enjoyed it more. So Raymond decides to start a fashion line, because of fucking course he does. It's Raymond. He starts this fashion line, begins advertising, and Droop is upset by this. It is always good to see Droop. I said it in the reaction, I'll say it again here. I think she's one of the most underrated OKKO characters. I have seen fan art of her, and I have seen people talk about her, but not as much as, like, obviously the main crew, or even other side characters. And it's a shame, really, because I really like Droop. I think her design is fantastic. I think she's honestly just really pretty. And I enjoy what we've gotten from her. So in this, we get to see her go full on fashion as she and Rad both being annoyed by Raymond's fashion, decide to take him on with their own. Obviously, Droop is the head of the fashion line, with Rad acting as the main model. Um, and I absolutely adore that they call it Straw Baby Couture. That is the fucking best. I love everything about that. Just the term Straw Baby in the first place is both fucking adorable and just so fitting for Droop. It works so drastically much. And it works with the word couture as well. It blends well. So Straw Baby Couture sounds really good, like really legitimately good. And they're doing well. They begin to take the attention away from Raymond's line, but he starts making ripoffs. He's doing more mind control. He's doing everything he can to basically take everybody's money and keep their attention as the top of the fashion world. So, um, Rad and Droop challenge him to a fashion battle, which is basically just a bunch of posing on the runway, which somehow releases power fields that push against each other. It, it's not exactly logical or anything, but it's fun nonetheless. The idea of like two fashion lines like competing with one another is like, oh yeah, that kind of thing has definitely happened. As has a lot of the ideas behind like, some fashion lines ripping off others and stuff. It's not an unheard of concept. So to see them having like a literally runway competition where it's like there's two runways facing each other and they're going, like they're walking down at the same time going after each other, is really fucking funny to me. And we see that it's kind of mixed. In some cases, Raymond is doing better, but in some cases we see that Straw Baby Couture is doing a little better. And it basically comes down in the end to Rad versus Raymond specifically. Raymond seems to be winning, but Droop encourages him by saying like, oh, the best thing you can do is just be yourself. That's the true essence of fashion. So he goes into his normal outfit and beats Raymond by just being himself. Everyone's broken out of the mind control, and all is good. Droop is amazing in this episode. She is strong, she is confident, she is fabulous, she is amazing. I'm not, it's not even really hyperbole to say she is up there with my favorite characters in this series. And she has been even before this episode, but definitely after this episode. This really elevated her for me even more. I'm not like the most into fashion. Like, I could not tell you what different labels look like. I could not look at an outfit and tell you like, oh, this is whatever this label is or whatnot. I could not look at a bag and tell you it's a Louis Vuitton or something. I could not do that. For me, I like fashion. I enjoy fashion, and I'm more casual with it. Like, I'm not the kind of person who, again, would like probably go to runway shows. Not that I would mind. It's just I wouldn't like actively do that. I wouldn't like actively take part in it. I'm not gonna like look at fashion magazines all the time. I'm not gonna judge everybody's fashion as they go to like award shows or shit like that. I just enjoy it from a more casual perspective. And sometimes I enjoy seeing like stuff about fashion. Media that focuses on that, either for a comedic purpose like Zoolander, or for in a more serious way, like although I've only seen a few episodes of it, Smile Down the Runway, which is an anime series about runway fashion. Um, and hell, a cosplay fashion, of course, that does count too. That is a type of fashion. It's just like I'm into it, but I'm not like, super invested into the specific details. But I still very much enjoy seeing media about that kind of thing. So seeing it here and seeing Droop like really owning it and everything was great. Uh, Rad's extreme confidence in his hotness was funny. And it's like I don't necessarily disagree with you, but it's like you're really tooting your own horn here, my dude. um, you're definitely not the hottest character in this show. That goes to Carol. But in all seriousness, I just think it was a really fun, enjoyable, good episode that just made me love Droop even more than I already did. And just it was definitely my kind of topic too. Even if I'm not super knowledgeable in all the details about things, I still very much enjoy this topic when it's brought up. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I really, really love this episode. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of these 5 episodes of OKKO Let's Be Heroes Season 2? And thank you all so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See you all next time.